Hello.
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 Hello. When you were rolling the B roll and the Russell's Viper came on, I was going to start be like, the Russell's Viper. But then you muted us.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
Chillin'. Is that air sound on my microphone?
I don't know. Mute yourself and tell me. Nope. That would be Sir Billiam in his pipe. He's hitting the pipe.
Hitting that pipe. The old mahogany.
Can you hear us? Bill, are you alive? Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee.
Yep.
He's in the glass
Just had to pack
case of
things for a
emotion.
second.
Do you have a preferred pipe tool or no?
A check tool.
Yeah. But like I'm saying, do you just use a little crappy brass one that every tobacco shop in the world has, or
Yeah.
do you have like a preferred one?
No, I like that one. It's called a check
Yeah.
tool. That's the basic, I have a fancier one that's nice, but they all do the same thing.
Yeah, I've got like 2 or 3 of them that I've accumulated over the years, and I didn't know if there was like a better one. You know what I mean?
No, they all do the same thing, really. I don't... Bill may have a
Yeah, I mean, they can be
opinion of that.
like more ornate, but like these Danny Boy pipes is the stuff. I pretty much have basically all their stuff. These are the super simple ones that just come in their kits. They do more ornate ones, same as the pipes. Like you can get fancier kits or things that match and different stuff like that.
Right.
But I like their basic stuff.
Good.
Those are nice because there's something just like with lighters.
You can
and
actually
stuff,
do-
what happens to it. They're easily replaceable. You're not out.
Yeah.
Anything expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, some folks do them. That I've seen different things with like kilt pins and different stuff where you can get pretty into it.
Well, this is episode 110 of Snakes and Stogies, which is brought to you by blackboxcages.com and Puget Sound Pythons. Please check out both Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. So this week we are joined by Mr. Bill Bradley, fellow Herpetoculture Network host.
I'm a fine tobacco user.
Yeah. Is that a Rocky Patel you're smoking?
No, sir. This is a Nova Platinum Batch Toro.
Yeah, I forgot they had that same. Rocky has a band that's like one of their 2011 limited special editions or something that's a very similar color, and that's what it looked like from afar.
Yeah, I was feeling worldly, and there's a map of the world on the back of the band, and I figured, why not? This is actually my last one. I got to go buy more, but of all of the Novas that I've smoked, this is by far the tightest draw I've ever had. I'm wondering if it's just one of those like, I just got a bad stick, and I really hope it's not going in that direction.
Is it torpedo?
No, it's just a normal Toro,
but
it's just very tight, very tight.
It happens. I mean, people get upset at work sometimes because they're like, "Man, this is drawing tough." It's like they're all handmade, okay? Like,
yeah,
premium cigars are all 100% handmade.
Yeah,
there's gonna be imperfections. The way that companies find out these imperfections in certain cigars is they weigh them in these giant bundles, and if they're within a certain range, and we're not talking about a large range, but in a certain range, they know that they're for the most part problem free.
Right.
They can tell if something's off if the weight's different, and they do draw tests and stuff. And I don't know exactly how they go ahead and do that, but they do what they can.
Yeah.
Some companies are better about it than others, but it comes with the territory. Like you get a box of cigars, normally it's not uncommon for 1 or 2 to have that problem.
And it's interesting too because
your mic's spazzing, Phil. I think. Is that you? Yeah, that's Phil. Sounds like you're on a windy beach. It's still there. The man can't win with his gear. Yeah, so like anything else, it's a handmade product. Expect imperfections. Expect, some problems here and there. It comes with the territory. I can't tell if Bill is frozen now. Oh, he's moving.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Do I sound all right now?
Yeah.
I'm just using the MacBook microphone. Fuck this cord. Pardon my French.
Is it your XLR cable?
Yeah, I think
It was perfect when we started.
I know, man, and I had this problem with Eric and Nipper like 4 days ago. Is that I think this thing, like the actual USB plug, USB plug, is like coming out. Yeah. Oh well.
I mean, your MacBook mic sounds fine too, so no problems there either.
Yeah, but I don't get to use my fancy microphone with my fancy gimbal and stand, and I feel antiquated, to say the least.
I feel you. Bill, what are you smoking?
I am doing Black Stoker from Danny Boy Pipes, and then I put a little bit of Blend X on top because I was running low, and then I'm sure at some point I'll switch over just to Blend X. Used to be their Christmas blend, then they renamed it.
Do you typically go for like I like Cavendish. Like straight Cavendish is always going to be one of my favorite pipe tobaccos.
Sure.
I'm not too big on like English blends and stuff like that. That heavy, smoky Latakia sort of flavor. I like it in small doses, but do you typically stick to like the aromatic stuff?
The Blend X one I do quite a bit. My kids love it. That was the first one they smelled. They freaked out because they thought it smelled like Christmas cookies. Nice. I have a couple of different Irish ones that are a lot lighter. I kind of prefer that. The Black Stoker is kind of an English jam.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, like I said, I like Latakia in small blends is in small doses is fine. I like a little splash of it, but some of those really heavy dark English blends are they're too much for me, but they're popular.
And Bill, do you use screens or no?
Say it again.
Do you use screens or no?
No.
Am I going through?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
There's a little bit of a delay. So I'm smoking a Papa's Fritas right now. I'm smoking a Papa's Fritas. We just had a Drew Estate event Friday night, so I got some Year of the Rats and stuff from our rep, which is probably what I got on deck after this. Pretty much a Liga night for me here. It's good stuff. Those Year of the Rats, so I talked about them a while back. We first got them in. I really wasn't crazy about them. For $20, I was not impressed with, considering that it was supposed to be Liga Privada stuff, which is, has never disappointed me. But these are these have some serious age on them. They have some time on them, and they're considerably better than I remember them being. So, it's still not a league I'm going to go out of my way to buy, but in comparison to like a T52 or something, but I was giving them and I'm going to smoke them. So,
do you think that the rat stuff is an intentional role, or do you think it's a supplemental division of Liga?
So all the rat stuff, Velvet Rat, Ratzilla, Year of the Rat, those are all rolled specifically in that size that they're sold in. They don't come in any other sizes. Dirty Rat, that's another one. That's a smaller size. Those are rolled. That blend is rolled for that size cigar. They're all very similar flavor-wise, in my opinion. I don't notice any major differences. I definitely will say that Velvet Rat sticks out to me a little more than the other two in terms of just its silkiness. I find some of the rat stuff has sort of a sourness or a bitterness to it that isn't bad, but it when I'm looking for like Liga stuff, I'm looking for that like T52 and number 9 to me are like for Ligas. That's it. The UF13s are awesome too, but those are getting harder and harder to find. But the number 9s, it's like that's if I want something rich and silky, that's what I'm going to go for because it's that Connecticut broadleaf. Like it is very one dimensional flavor wise. It's going to be the same from start to finish, but they are really good. T52 is typically what I grab just because it's more complex. It's got a little bit more going on flavor wise. Well, a lot more going on flavor wise. And that's a Habano. So it's got that pepperiness, that fullness, to it that you get with Habanos, but it just you can do all the special, like not the special edition, but the Unico series stuff. That's all good and whatnot. But to me, it's like I'm completely okay with a Toro and a T52 or number 9.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, Toro number nine is my go-to stick. You know what I mean? Like, if hands down, these Nova Platinum batches in a Toro, a VSG, and a number 9. Like, if they don't have one of those, like, that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know what to go with. So,
yeah. But what's been going on over the last week? Anything new?
not too much on my end, man. Just making sure I get new baby sub ox I got are chilling. I'm gonna feed them this week. So I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm just gonna drop feed a brain frozen thaw pinky, and just cross my fingers. They look like they're. They look
I
like
don't.
they're.
Yeah, I really
night
don't think
hunter.
I have problems with them, man. Like they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and other than that, I my 2 of my 3-year-old girdle tail lizards figured out how to get behind the Exoterra foam.
Of course.
So I'm debating. I just noticed it like tonight before I came on with you guys, and I'm like, do I gut that cage and yoink them out and fix it, or do I just let them be lizards and just let them do their thing? You know, because they're
You
gonna
got
probably,
back there, you can get out.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, all right, as soon as there's water and food, you'll want to come out. So
You'll hear them scratching and trying to scramble to get there.
Yeah, because this time of year, I only give them water maybe once a month. You know what I mean? So when I make it rain, they'll come out, I'm sure. So, but Bill, what about you, bud?
I got a trio of Eastern Black Kings from the Man of the Year himself. So that was pretty cool. They he told me feed the females like monitors and give them 24 hours after food and then introduce, but still watch them like a hawk. And so I gave them a couple of chicks. The male was not interested in food. He's been kind of searching.
He's in girl mode.
Did some introductions, and they don't care about him at all. No aggression, which is good, but he was, kind of a little wiggling, a little poking, and one of them just kind of cruised away, and one of them, I mean, she might have been asleep. I don't know. I mean, they're good. Like they were hanging out, rode a hook a little bit, moved him here and there, did this, whatever I had to do to get everything set up. But yeah, they could care less if he's even alive. So, which I mean, they just got here, so that's not.
That's better than aggression, right?
100%, yeah, because that was
you still got Chris, plenty of time.
Chris was very specific, and the whole production side of it is extra for me. I just really enjoy the story. They're a North American native. It's something I can really use to teach, and it gives a lot of good background information. So
teaches kids.
But yeah, Chris was very specific. Like, hey man, watch him.
Yeah.
And then
that's how I learned.
I confirmed my stuff with the Black Box folks, and so I will be at the show in Atlanta, or Marietta, as it were, in March.
Hell yeah, man! Are you going to be there like the whole weekend?
Yeah. So I will figure that part out. Right now, it looks like I'm going to drive to Nashville Friday night, finish out the trip Saturday morning to be at the show Saturday. I'll be there at least until Sunday, and then figure out what I'm doing going home on Sunday.
Yeah, because I mean, you were just going down there for work anyways, right? Like you were going to be in Tennessee regardless.
Nope, I'm off, so I'm just making the trip.
No, I got you. Hell yeah, man! I'm excited. We're I think me and Jake still haven't hammered out the exact plans yet. Like we're definitely going to be at the show Saturday. I'm thinking what we're going to do is go up Friday, probably go straight to Jen's to pick up our stuff because I don't know if they'll be able to fit it all with the things they're taking to the show. So we may go to their place, pick up our stuff, and then drive to the hotel near the venue because we're going to rent a U-Haul or something enclosed that we can lock, and that'll just make it easier on them, you know?
Yeah, give them more room to bring stuff to the show.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm getting a bunch of Bio-Gs and I'm getting an XR20 rack. Jake's getting a couple of cages and a rack. And I mean, that's going to take up a lot of space. So I'm not gonna try and ask Jen to be like, hey, can you somehow fit ours with everything else? I don't want to be that guy. So
yeah, she messaged me today and she's like, I didn't forget about you, but yours are a little more tricky. They don't go with the whole 2-week lead time. I was like, no, I figured as much. Don't worry about it. So I'm excited, man. I am.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what you think of them when you get your hands on them. You as well, Bill. What'd you end up going with?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't had their stuff before, but just emailing back and forth with them, and they were asking how I wanted to set up and lights and stuff and the things that I intended to use. And I mean, they think of everything, and I explained that, I have this idea for this quad of Australia things and how I want to set stuff up. And I get pretty ridiculous with lighting and zoopoxy and interiors and all the nonsense that I'm going to do. And, she was all about it, man. Like, yeah, tell me where to route stuff. And I'll start making holes. And, she was pretty excited. So it's really cool.
Yeah, they're good people. Their product's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited about doing these 3-footers with full decor, and we even talked about putting LEDs inside them. So I'm really excited to kind of see, because most of them are going to be for venomous stuff, but I need 2 of them for the water pythons. So they're going to have the most simplistic, just paper bowl hide box, because they're going to wreck it anyway. But like the Fields Vipers and stuff, man, I'm gonna do it up. I got so much foam I've been hoarding, and my work, we got new monitors for like around the store for like consoles and like kiosks and like nurses station type stuff. And I saved all the foam that held the monitor screens in place in the cardboard boxes.
Like styrofoam?
Yeah, styrofoam.
Oh,
yeah. So it's like that high impact, durable foam.
The hard stuff.
Yeah, like they put a TV in,
Mm-hmm.
So I have all these like nooks and crannies and like air pockets. So, dude, I'm just gonna make all kinds of little crevices and just use the pockets that they already built.
Crevasses.
Yeah, and I'm really eager to see these locks that Jen found. These circular ones, they look really interesting. So,
I think you sent me a picture of those.
Yeah,
or maybe I saw them when you guys were messaging back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about you, Mr. Smitty?
Oh man, so everything's out of cooling. Chris Painchab, the man of the year, also sent me a female ghost tessera to pair up with one of my Ladies Island males. So
excellent.
She ate right off the rip. When she came in, I brought her home, set her up, threw her some food, and she nailed it. And now she's in a shed cycle. So gonna get another couple meals in her, and then probably put them together at some point.
Good stuff.
Loma Altas are together. They've been together for a while. One of them shed. The other one should be shedding probably within the next day or so.
Cool.
So hopefully they'll start making something happen. Male de-owned shed, waiting on the female to shed. She's deep in a cycle.
Nice.
I'm going to put them together, but I'm going to make sure I'm around for that just in case, because those do have a documented history of being cannibalistic, and that male is considerably smaller than her. So
Yeah.
Bimaculata, I put the Bimaculata in today because the female shed.
Okay.
And like the shed was still like wet, like fresh. And so I went ahead and threw the male in there. And as far as I know, they were locked up almost immediately because they were all pulled up and their tails were, together, and couldn't see it like a confirmed lock. But given like where their tails were, their vents were pretty much even.
Do they go into like a trance like a lot of other type snakes, or are they like you open the drawer and they pull apart?
They didn't pull apart, but they were definitely like their twitchy, normal sort of little.
Okay.
Like what the hell's going on? Sort of state.
Yeah. Why'd it get so bright all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thorn scrubs are together. I don't know if anything's happened with them yet. I haven't noticed any action. Beaufort pair. So my Shell Point female corn to my Ladies Island male corn, the same male that's going to go to that female that Chris sent me. Put them together because she finally shed. I haven't heard or noticed any action from them yet. Waiting on my other Ladies Island female to shed, who was the dam to the clutch I got last year. Waiting on her to shed so I could put in the male with her. He's ready to go because I tried him a couple nights ago before she like really went into the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying, man. He was all about it, but she wasn't giving it up. So he's definitely ready. I think that's about it. There's another. So I was originally going to do the Olympia male bears that Chris sent me last year to the dam that hatched that gave me the clutch I got last year as well. But I think he probably needs another year. I think he's a little younger than I thought he was. So I'm just going to do some hets. I'm going to put in my male albino with that female and pop out some het albino bears. And I think that's about it. The Cyane are going to be going up to Terry Burwell at some point here soon. I'm supposed to get some rhinos. The pair.
Okay.
I'm supposed to get some rhinos from him for those. So
nice.
Other than that, I think it's pretty much business as usual. I weighed my female green trees to see where they were at weight-wise. They're all about the 450 mark gram-wise, so they still need a little bit of time. Once they hit 600 is when I'll start considering putting them together. That would still put me on track to pair them towards the end of the year, but I'm pretty much going to play it by ear. If I don't think they've got enough mass on them by then I may just end up having to punt it again. I'm not banking on anything yet, but we'll see. So
okay, time will tell.
Yeah, but I think that's about it.
Cool beans. Casey and I went to Billy's this Saturday into Sunday, and we hung out and had a grand old time. We went to Tampa Repticon, which was good. It was a good show. Saw some people, saw some friends, BS a little bit. Very Royal Python heavy, very very jewelry heavy, very like lots of crafters that were. I mean, there's a lot of non-reptile stuff, but for the most part, there was a lot of knickknacks and stuff like that, but same local people, but a typical Repticon. It was very, very ball python heavy. So, but Casey and I helped Billy do some, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Basically, Billy had some animals that were told to him to be a particular sex. They were then sexed again at time of delivery. And then some time went by, some years went by, and he just wanted to double check before he starts really putting things in motion. So me and Casey helped him do some probing. And I want to touch base on this tonight is if you don't know how to probe a snake, learn. Don't try, if that makes any sense. Because we were given some scenarios in which I straight up was like, we can't probe it. It's not worth it. Whether it be the snake's reaction or the way the snake is being defensive in terms of pooping or musking or whatever, or if the snake's even just in shed. And I think that it's really important that if people are going to learn how to probe correctly, that they learn from multiple different people and see how other people do things. They don't try and do it by themselves. And
it is much easier with two people. I will say that.
Much easier with two people.
Infinitely easier with two people.
And do everything in your power to keep things clean and sanitary. The days of Billy actually brought this up. Excuse me. The days of some guy taking a probe out of his pocket, licking it, spitting on it, and then sticking it in a snake. That doesn't work like this anymore. I wear latex gloves. Billy was kind enough to have some hermetically sealed alcohol wipes that he uses for medical stuff. So I wipe down everything. It's all surgical stainless steel. I wipe everything down with alcohol, let it air dry, and then I use coconut oil as a lubricant. You don't have to goop it up, but just literally a light sheen of coconut oil, and I use that as a lubricant to kind of help do things. There are several different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, but before anyone tries to probe on their own, get lessons, get tips from somebody, and try and do it from a couple different people, and just go slow.
Yeah.
Everyone's so worried about rushing it. But I wanted to pick your guys' brains and see if there's anything that you might want to recommend or that you may want to talk about on that front.
Vic said, wasn't that how they used to test for STDs back in the day? I hope not. Bill?
Other than don't rush it, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think people take into account that, like, you can cause major injury. Like the whole, lick it and stick it in or whatever nonsense you see at goofy people at reptile shows or whatever. Like, well, that snake's done. Like, if that was a male and you just punched it straight through, like, really glad he has two, because one's probably not very good now. Like, it just, the animals are very resilient, but like, don't let that fool you into just jamming instruments into them. Weren't we just making fun of someone for doing surgery on YouTube?
We were. And even though this isn't bona fide surgery, it's still an invasive, foreign procedure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it happened to me, I'd consider it surgery.
Well put, sir. Well put. Yeah, I think that, keeping everything clean and sanitary is a must. Using some kind of natural lubricant that's not, chemical based should be deployed as well. And then sanitizing things in between animals, even if they're the same animal, even if they're gonna be paired up eventually a week later. Still, you don't want to do any kind of funky cross-contamination bacteria. I mean, think about how much bacteria is in your mouth, and then you're licking it and sticking it inside them. It's not cool. But I also wanted to touch base on, like, if you get resistance, A, that doesn't mean it's a girl, and B, you should stop and try again another time. Because I do like
or try the other side.
Well, you should always do both sides, always. And there's a particular way to make entry. There's a particular way to hug the side wall, so to speak. And there's a particular way of how much pressure you're going to give. And using the right amount of pressure and rolling the probe is a very sound method for me, but it takes a lot of practice because you don't want to push too hard because you will rupture and damage, whether it's boy or girl. So I think it really is important to learn and not just try.
Absolutely. But fortunately, we're in a time where you now don't have to, like, that's not the end all be all anymore.
Right.
We have guys like Dr. Ben Morrill at RGI who, you can do the sex determination through shed skins, at least for colubrids and stuff. With pythons, it's a little more complicated. It's not that expensive. I think it's like $15 or something like that for a single shed. Popping, that's another one that it takes a little practice. The whole point of, like, popping and probing is just be gentle, And if like, don't overdo it. Like, if you're not getting the results that you think it should be or that you're wanting, then just leave it be and come back to it. I talk about with the colubrids, the sheds, and seeing the male and female differences between the two. Like, so far that's been extremely accurate for me. I don't think I've had an animal that didn't, that it wasn't accurate on so far.
Yeah.
With chondros and stuff, to me, it's like, I'm going to have that snake regardless. I know some people want to know as early as possible, so they know, sort of like, plan way ahead. For me, it's like, when it sheds plugs, it sheds plugs. If it doesn't, then it's a girl. It's one. And now, if you have the sire to that animal and you have that shed, you can send that shed in with the progeny shed to RGI, and they can determine from that, as long as you have both, if that's a male or a female, which is what we're going to be doing. Luke is sending the shed of the sire to the one lone hatchling I have from him. And so once that's in, I'm going to send my shed in, and we'll be able to know for sure. I think it's female, just given by the sort of the tail structure and stuff. It's very, very abrupt in the cutoff. And I think also over time, at least with colubrids, you get kind of good at eyeballing things and being able to tell what's male and what's female. I think you have to look at a lot of snakes over time to really get a good feel for it. And
it's species specific too.
Yeah. I mean, what I tell people pretty much, if I sell an animal, like, I'm never gonna, unless it's a proven breeder, I'm never gonna 100% guarantee sex.
Right.
If I sell it as a male and it ends up being female, or vice versa, then, like, I have no issues fixing that. If someone wants to, I'll send them a different animal. Like, we'll figure something out. But I also sort of make that in my terms of service. Like, unless I have seen it, or it is a proven breeder where we know for a fact that it is a boy or a girl because it is produced as such, then I can say with confidence that it is that. But like, hatchlings and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, I can pop them. The shed determination, if it's just, there's a lot of people that buy stuff and get upset when it ends up being a male, years down the road or whatever. And it's like, there's enough options now to where that really shouldn't even be an issue anymore.
Right. So. I also think that it comes down to learning the attributes of the animal and what to look for. So if I've got a king snake and Bill has a king snake, and we look at the male's tail and we look at the female's tail, and we can clearly see that the male's tail is wider at the base, closer to the vent, when we know that, okay, we probed it, it's male, female, we have something to compare and contrast. But if Smitty is doing it with a red tail boa, it's completely different. So just because one friend says, oh, if the tail is, short and stubby, it's a girl, but if it's long and thin, it's a boy. Well, that doesn't mean that that's what it is with their animal or that species or that genus. So take a look at what you've got and kind of do some more homework and figure out what the traits are. And if you want to learn how to do probing and popping and that sort, then go from there. Jessica Ward asked a great question. How do you select what size probe to use? Is there a general guideline for estimating the appropriate size? There's not, but a good rule of thumb is, first of all, every probe should have a balled end, like a ball bearing end. Okay. Excuse me. It should be.
Mine surgical. Don't, but they're rounded. Like, they're not.
They're rounded.
They are rounded on the end, but it's not the ball probes. So
I prefer the ball tip, because when you're when you're first getting past the vent scales, you have the thinness of the neck of the probe can aid you in negotiating that muscle that's there, right? So once the probe has entered the hemipenal sheath, that ball piece is in, now I can just slide straight up. While as one that is just complete the same diameter of the body of the probe, I don't have what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have that taper to use as a guide, if that makes any sense. And I'm sure people that'll get this in hand, that'll make more sense. But what I've always done is, if you do have a ball tip, to match the ball tip to the approximate size of the subcaudal scales. That's usually a good rule of thumb to do that. And if you're using on a very, very baby snake, you need to use a very, very, very baby probe, a probe that may even be like smaller than a needle, right? Which now is even more dangerous and more harmful, and could cause way more issues because there's no way to put a ball tip on that. It's too small. And now, because it's so thin like a needle, you run a higher risk of puncturing something or stabbing something. And I don't like probing stuff until it's big enough to accept the smallest ball tip, if that makes sense.
Well, that's why popping is at least with colubrids is once you get like, I was very hesitant for a long time to sort of do the popping thing and try and get better at it, but with the last clutch of corns and bears and stuff, I was like, you know what? It's time to bite the bullet. It's time to figure it out. And it's really not that, it's not hard at all. It's just a matter of like making sure you're paying attention to how much pressure you're applying. And it's one of those things where if you're not comfortable doing probing or popping at all, then don't do it.
Yeah, I don't do it.
There's no pressure to do it. If you have someone local that is actually good at it and you can make sure that they're actually legit and good at it, then I think that's a good way to go. But at the same time, everyone has to learn at some point, I think, if you're planning on, if it's something you need to know because you're breeding or whatever, I don't.
Yeah. And maybe I'm naive, but like these two subocs I just got, they're supposed to be a pair. I didn't probe them. I didn't pop them. I'm just going to leave them be. And in 4 to 6 months, when they're big enough for me to actually get a better look at, and I can compare the two animals and see if I really want to probe it, I'll go from there. But as of right now, it's still early enough in the game that things are developing, things are doing their own thing. And I'm sure someone who's good at popping could do it. And I would have, like, if you or Chris or somebody or Billy, I would have no problem letting you guys pop it. For me, I'm too, I don't have that dexterity to do it. And
I figured out that you sort of have to put your thumb a little farther back than you think you would to get them to pop out like that.
You're not popping it like a zit. You're massaging the
hemi rolling it.
Right,
you're rolling that thumb to make that peen shoot out.
Yeah. Just like Bill's Friday night.
For you. There you go. As he sits in the darkness of the shadows, gingerly puffing his pipe.
I definitely do not pop. It scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I would much rather probe things.
Now I will say too, popping wise, I pop like as soon as stuff is basically out of the egg and ready to be put into a tub. Like they don't have as much muscle control to resist as much. It's much easier on the animal. Their bones are still a little softer, so you don't have to worry about going too hard. They're a little more pliable, kind of like human babies.
Billy Hunt was saying that.
Yeah. So I don't really do it. I mean, I'll do it on a snake that maybe is a couple weeks old, but as far as like older snakes and stuff, it's like, no, I'll just wait for a shed if I absolutely have to probe, which I did probe last weekend because I sold some beards. And I told the girl at bottom, I was like, if these end up not being what they just probed as, because one of them was a male for sure. The other one went in almost none at all. And so I was like, this should be a female. If it's not, let me know and we will fix it. Like, she lives local, so I was like, I'll swap it out with something else. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good, that especially when you're dealing with someone that understands that. You know what I mean? Because so many people are like, well, you sold it to me as a male. Well, it's life, man, Well,
I was straight up with her too. I was like, I can't 100% guarantee sex because they're still young, but they were sold to me as a pair. I tried to verify it as best as I could. Like I said, if it's not, we'll fix it, but that's not a problem. So.
Now, let me ask you, Mr. Bradley, how do you feel about probing lizards?
Ooh.
Is that a thing? People do that?
So I have hung out with some friends and helped. So Ryan and Erica McVeigh have a pretty extensive spinulosis monitor project. And so I've hung out at NARBC in a couple of different places where, they're trying to, sex ratios are very important. That project is not really worked with other than by a handful of people in the US. And so I helped out with that. It works, But spinulosis are like super skinny velociraptors. And so it didn't feel any different than doing a snake.
Right.
But man, I don't know. Doing it on a bigger lizard would be, I don't think that would be fun, especially if they decided they didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to comment that I only know maybe 2 or 3 people that I would actually trust to do it because, in my experience, first of all, it's incredibly difficult, and the risk of damage is so much greater than that of a snake. But it's also type of lizard specific.
Yeah.
So like large lacertids, like tegus and stuff. Actually, I think tegus are probably probe more than any other lizard, but I know people that probe tegus pretty easily in relation to other things, and most of the other ones are monitors. But like, you're not going to probe skinks. You're not. You're not going to probe geckos. You don't
Right.
have enough real estate there. Let alone the physiology of the animals not designed for that type of instrument, in my opinion.
I don't think you even should need to with geckos.
Yeah.
If you got a jeweler's loop, I did that with
100%.
cresteds and guards. It's like, or show up fairly early on. If you know what you're looking at, then it's fairly obvious.
Yeah, and then we also have things that snakes don't have, like femoral pores. You know what I mean? So,
I will say though,
well, the thing about that stuff like that is when you get,
go ahead, Bill.
When you get small enough that you're worried about probes, you're usually talking about animals that either show pores or show hemipenal bulges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More on the gecko side of the world. And funny enough, a lot of the geckos that are quote unquote really hard to breed, they don't show that. And then most of the agamids that are quote unquote hard to breed, which to most folks is anything that's not a bearded dragon, but are the ones that don't show it. And so then you start to get like, it's the size of a bearded dragon, so it looks like it could probably deal with a probe without hurting it, but it's not fat like a tegu where they just don't care. And, how are you, then you start, that's where people get real hesitant, and that's where they mess up. Because you're flipping it over. Like we were doing the spinulosis, and they were all pretty fresh imports and stuff, and so they're pretty little. And I don't think any of them were much bigger than a bearded. But one of us was holding the back end, one of us was holding the front end. That person was definitely getting bit, and then Erica was usually doing the probe. If you're doing smaller agamids, painted agamas, starry agamas, things like that, maybe you could kind of do it on your own because you could, if you had a big enough hands to get the man grip on them. But dude, it just sucks, man. It's a much more difficult prospect than snakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it also comes down to physiology too, because, if you have a lizard, an agamid type that has the same thickness tail of that of a snake, the hemipenal sheath on a snake is still long and lateral, while as on the lizard, it's more of like a pocket, or like a pouch, if you will.
Yeah.
So even if you could get the probe correctly, your depth may be deceiving because it's so shallow. So.
For sure. And you wouldn't probe them because you don't need to, but like, look
bend
at
their tail
goofy
kind of
stuff
thing.
like chameleons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you, please don't, no one listening to this ever try it, but like if you can look up videos of chameleons, like if a panther chameleon's trying to breed and she doesn't want it, and so he's got the hemipene out, where it's feathered and corkscrewed and like this weird crazy shit. Like if you tried to probe that, you'd be like, oh, that's a girl for sure. Like it doesn't go very far at all. It's like, well, no, it folds in there like some gross accordion.
It's like
it's not the
Jack
same
in the
thing,
Box.
Yeah. Yep. Well put.
That is the nice thing about Morelia, though, is once males hit that, that mark, at least with chondros, it's about the 2-year mark. If it's a boy, you're going to start getting plugs. Which even then, plugs is kind of a misnomer. So you think about hemipenes in the snake, they're inside out. They're like a sock inside the body. So when they shed, those aren't really sperm plugs per se, but it's like that outside skin that comes out. And the nice thing with chondros too is the more time you have with them, especially if you have multiple animals, you can tell behaviorally with decent accuracy what's a male and what's a female just by sort of body tone, body shape, and then behavior. The males definitely cruise more at night than the females do. Males move a lot more in general than the females do. And so if you have a group of them, sort of like I do, you can over time as they get as they grow, once they hit the yearling plus mark, you can kind of get an idea of like, I think that's a girl, I think that's a boy. This one I'm still not sure about, and I just wait for plugs. Or lack thereof, and that just makes it easier. It's one of those things. Like I said, I'm gonna have it anyway, so I don't really care if it's a boy or a girl.
Right.
If I'm very male heavy, it's a sausage fest over here right now, but that's okay.
Give it time.
I'd rather be male heavy. I'd rather have equal sex ratios or be male heavy. Everyone thinks it's all about the females and like stocking up on females, but I think it's good to have more males than girls.
Yeah, I agree.
So I've never understood that, to be honest. I'm like neck deep into listening to the Chameleon Academy podcast, if folks are interested in that kind of thing. And a lot of the folks that he talks to describe the same thing. So the problem with having a bunch of females is, what you would think is a positive is you get a bunch of babies if it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then you got to deal with them. Like, whereas, in most things, having that male competition could be the key that a lot of folks are missing. I don't really need a breeder. There ain't nobody here taking her from me, so who cares? You know what I mean? Whereas that other male shows up and it's like, well, wait, I better hurry up and get this done, because there's some other dudes here. Whereas you get like 1.2 or 1.3 or whatever, and then in the context that I'm talking about is folks that we're talking about panther chameleons, and the man he was interviewing was like, yeah, that's cool, but then if you do well, assuming you took good care of them and so on and so forth, that's 30 babies a female. And it's like, all right, well, what the hell do I do with 90 babies? Like, you don't just pop them out, charge $400 a piece, and they go the next day. Like, that's not how that works. It makes a lot more sense to work your numbers. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just, I see so many people that are trios of everything. Like, well, it's almost never being worried that the girl didn't take, like, it's you didn't get him cold enough so he didn't develop sperm, she tried to eat him, it's always a him problem. Like, it's rarely a her problem when you hear folks that have negative stories.
Well, that's, I mean, in terms of green trees and stuff too, or even rat snakes for that matter, be it bears or corns or whatever. Like, I would much rather put some extra money into a really killer male or really killer two males, because I can breed those multiple times. Like, females, you get that one pairing for the year, and like that's it. Like, with a killer male though, he can spread his seed all over the place.
Yeah, but that goes back to what Bill was saying of, it's always a male problem. Well, what if your male isn't into it?
That too, especially with condoms.
You may have a girl that bred 1 year and you're like, oh, great, she's receptive, and you do it again and she's like, no, I'm sick of him. Yeah. I want a different dude.
Yeah. No, it's been pretty well documented with chondros. There's like some of them just aren't compatible for whatever reason. That female wants nothing to do with that male, and if you only have one or two males and 6 females, if they don't like the other one either, you're kind of in a bit of a predicament.
Or you have a scenario like Bob Rock had with some of his boas, where there's multiple males in an enclosure. One male does all the courtship work, but then he's too exhausted
Yeah.
from the courtship
Yeah.
to get the job done. So the next male swoops in and does it for him.
Yep.
And I mean, as graphic as that may be, it worked. So if he didn't have multiple males, if he only had 1.1, 1.1, 1.1, like, you wouldn't be able to do that.
That's why I was really hoping that conjure I have from Brahms, that really nice designer blue one that I have. I was really hoping that would be a male, but I'm like 90% sure it's a girl. So, which is fine and all still too, no big deal. But it was like, man, if that was a boy, he'd be putting in some work in a couple of years, man. He'd be going to freaking everything.
So, Bill, did you ever figure out what you're going to do with that giant enclosure?
Man, don't ask me that.
Come on, man. It's been like a month. You got to figure something out.
I am slowly building. Now, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not pretty sure. I am sure. I'm going to do the South America thing like we were talking. And right now I am trying to decide how I want to do the perching. I think that I want to copy the perching that I did for the green iguana enclosure, and then, which is fine. It's not like a complicated thing to build. The zoopoxy kind of adds some expense there, but that's just the nature of the product. But the my thing now is it's do I want to it's lighting and their snakes. I really want to set up the lighting in the same way, and because right now my red tails and my Amazon tree boas utilize the UV that I provide them. They don't utilize it necessarily in the same way that the green iguana does. I mean, he full on basks like a sunbather, heat and UV separately, and so I kind of want to provide them a similar lighting setup and see how they utilize it. The issue being I want to play with how to regulate that, and if I'm going to use fake or live plants to create shade, and how I want to do that. So it's more I'm getting into the weeds on the details of how I want to do it. But I put the doors on. I'm looking at potential turtle inhabitants for the base. I think I want spot-legged wood turtles. My son and I were talking about that.
Nice.
They come from Guyana and a couple of similar places to the red tails, and so I think that that could really work out.
Kinixis.
So, yeah, I have an entire dining room of plants that we brought all the pothos and different house plants and stuff. We keep them outside in the summertime, just let them take over the front porch, and then we pull them into the dining room to keep that growth going through the winter. So, I mean, I have enough plants to deck the whole thing out. That's not a problem. I just need to figure out how I want to set up my lights.
Alan Stevens
asked, at the same time, so the base is a 300-gallon racetrack trough. So that's almost 7 feet long. The base, that trough is just under 7 feet long. It is 3 feet front to back and almost 3 feet deep. And inside of that trough, there's 960 pounds of dirt. I have right now I have a handful of elephant ear hostas making kind of a shade canopy they're about 2 feet tall. I have ryegrass planted, and then there's a 15-gallon concrete mixing tub for a water feature. That's not pretty or anything yet. It's just in there, like, as a kind of plain thing. And then it's in the basement of my facility, and so I just built the rest of the enclosure to the ceiling of the basement. And so grand total, it is another 50 inches above the trough base. whatever, 4 feet wide, 7 feet long.
Dude, just keep a possum in it.
And then I'm going to do, what's up?
So just put a possum in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I should just dump all my morning geckos in there and leave it.
Well,
That would
be
be interesting.
I was going to say is I was just watching somebody in China was taking the black metal screen that they put around the base of a sapling tree so that nothing can get at it.
There it is. I knew Alan was getting at something.
Yeah,
how big was the setup?
Yep, Mertens for sure. But so these Chinese guys were taking this black metal screen that they used to protect sapling trees in the nursery, and they were basically drilling it or stapling it into the frame of their enclosure and then bending it and moving it. Then they take spray foam and they fill the inside of the metal tube with spray foam so that some of the foam comes through the screen. And then once they've got that, then they just cover it with grout or whatever they're doing to make like fake vines and fake branches. And I thought that would be a really cool, fairly lightweight way to do like horizontal vines and horizontal branches.
Yeah. I've attempted a similar thing with the Zoopoxy, which is heavier than the spray foam. Now that I think of it, so you probably have a better idea. But you could do grate foam with that, carve it, and then cover it in dry lock. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure that once the foam came through the screen and it hardened, I'm pretty sure they used dry lock.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
They did some kind of animal safe paint on top, to add like certain textures of the vines and stuff. And then because it's foam and it has all those little screen holes, they took fake silk and silicone plants and just stuck it in the foam through the holes in the screen, and it would obviously anchor it appropriately. And then they could still paint around it and, grout around it or true lock around it.
Yeah, so I did a similar thing with the iguana enclosure, but I didn't use the fake plants because I don't want them to eat them. But the base is actually PVC pipe covered in that Zoopoxy. But the PVC pipe is the pipe that's meant for tile underneath of a field, and so it's got evenly spaced holes. And then I stick greens in those holes, and let him eat them.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. I didn't even think of that. There's definitely a delay.
Yeah.
So.
Just a tad.
Just the scotch.
The Ackies are going to be needing an upgrade soon.
Oh, really? Already?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's a pair because the female is, one of them is considerably larger than the other one. The tail is really fat, which is, from what I've been told and read, a pretty good sign of a female. Yeah, I mean, easily, probably by June, I'm thinking they'll definitely need something. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Probably need to figure that out. Alan Stevens is the reason I have them.
So what you're telling me is that once you upgrade them to a newer, bigger enclosure, you'll have their old enclosure at perfect time to get another pair of babies.
Of Kim's, yeah.
Oh, ooh.
I'm
breaking out the big guns.
Damn Podfather and Alan there in the chat. Alan is a horrible influence. I say that all the time, and it's true.
Yep.
I still like the Ackies.
All right, am I still a robot?
Really want nothing to do with me. Not really, no.
Yeah, talk some more. See what happens.
Floating face in a dark room.
Talk some more, Bill.
Pirate ghost. Hello.
Hello.
This is what they deal with on the news channels.
Yeah, right. We don't have a cute weather girl to flash to.
Bill.
Mr. Bill Bradley. Bill.
I don't know. I think I'm alive.
Well, good stuff, gentlemen. Good stuff.
I know when it catches up because Justin's foot moves and smoke rises.
That's good. That's good. Yeah,
See, now it's
Shmee
back
wearing
to normal.
pants and shoes.
I'm wearing slippers. Don't get it.
Oh, I was gonna say it must be cold there.
Don't get it confused. It's not really. It's just cooler.
Cooler.
Snake season is approaching.
What's wait. What is pants and slippers cool weather?
I think it's like low 60s right now.
Oh, come on, man.
You can't compare down here to up there, okay? It's just not a fair comparison.
I made a
My entire
conversation
family
chat.
wore shorts to the gym tonight because it was 52. We were so excited.
Well, I made a comment earlier about how Bill Bradley's our Lord of the North, and he didn't realize it was him. He thought I was making a Game of Thrones joke. I was like, "No, man, that's you, Bubba." Meanwhile, I'm in flip flops and basketball shorts because it is a balmy 82 degrees right now.
It's been like we had nice 80-degree weather, and then it disappeared for a couple days, and it's supposed to come back tomorrow, I think. So
My kids are so excited. It's going to be 60 in 3 days. It's like the second coming.
Man, what I would do for 60-degree weather. Oof.
No frostbite.
I got like 2 days of cool weather. 2 days this year. Sucked. Goddamn global warming.
Damn you, Al Gore.
Damn you, Al Gore.
No, but I went over to my
that
neighbor.
Man, he invented the internet.
Man, bear, pig.
I went over to my neighbor's house today because she got bit by a copperhead a couple days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Why didn't we open with that?
I don't know.
Man.
So she has a big old brick pile in her yard, and she was going through to pick out some bricks or something. And we're not talking about a pile like a nice stack. We're talking about like rubble, like a pile of bricks, literally. And so she went to go grab one and stuck her hand down in a like a little hole, and lo and behold, got nailed by an adult copperhead. I saw pictures. It wasn't a big adult, but it was an adult. And so she went to the hospital and stayed there for a couple days. She's fine now, but
what finger to get her on? And
her index, I don't know if it was on her left or her right. Not that it really matters.
Right.
But yeah, she was wearing gloves, and it got her right through the glove. So.
Oh wow! And do we know what happened to the snake?
A snake got killed.
Naturally.
Yep. The next door neighbor to them came over, and because the joke that I've been making the last couple of days is because it tasted blood, it had to go. It was, now it's a bloodthirsty monster, and they chopped it up into like 3 pieces because I'm like, you just got to make sure it's dead, right? It's dumb. So they wanted me to go over and dig through that pile, and so I did that today for a little bit, and of course didn't see anything. I can understand. I told him, I explained to him, I was like, this is pretty much a magnet for snakes because it was like the rock piles that you'd see in like Texas, like when we were there, like perfect. Just, and I told him, I was like, this is ideal for them because they can get away from predators easy. There's tons of little hiding areas for them. Like now that it's cooler still, the sun beats down on this pile and those bricks heat up. So it's a nice like little thermal area. And
yeah, I
was sure I'd see a coral snake or something in that pile and I didn't, but.
Damn, it's a shame. Well, so what happened to her?
She went to the hospital. She was in the ICU for a couple days. She got some crofab.
Couple days,
like 2 or 3.
Wow. Okay.
She was back to work literally like yesterday, I think.
So, do you know how many vials they gave her?
I don't off the top of my head. I think it was like 3 or 4, maybe more.
Okay. and no necrosis.
So I have a insensitive question. Is this a smaller or larger person?
No, she's smaller. She's not like stereotypical American, like morbidly obese or anything like that. She is older.
Okay. I just
But
was
I mean,
thinking,
it
a
sounds
couple
like
of days in the
sounds like she
ICU.
handled it like a
Yeah.
champ. I think it was mostly a
Yeah.
precautionary measure. I don't think it was really.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
they called the ambulance. Unfortunately, we live literally like not even maybe a mile from a fire station that has EMS there too, and so they were there before they were even done on the phone with them. And I think she was going into shock a little bit. I think she was just freaked out by the whole thing so much that it, sent her into shock. And she said it hurt, and I'm like, yeah, it typically does.
Yeah.
Because I have an uncle that went to the hospital because he got bit. And this was also a copperhead. It was behind his shop that he works at, and he ended up leaving the hospital because they wouldn't let him have a cigarette or something stupid like that. And so I'm like, you didn't get bit, dude.
Yeah.
You got a drive by. You got lucky because if you had been bit, you would have fucking known it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There would be no mistake that something was not right.
Right.
It's not like you get bit and it's like, oh yeah, I didn't feel anything, but my hand's turning black. It's like, no, you would have known. So he got lucky. She didn't, but I explained to her, it was like the likelihood of this happening again, especially in the same spot, is probably pretty slim. I went through that pile and dug pretty deep. I mean, it went surprisingly far down. Like the bricks just kept coming.
Really?
And yeah, and I was amazed. I didn't see anything. Didn't see any Steraria. Didn't see any coral snakes or nothing. I was like, Did
you use your hands?
No.
Why not, man? Come on.
I learned from other people's mistakes. But of course, now I live.
I just love the hey, the neighbor ended up in the hospital. Snake guy, can you go dig through this for us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's how she went to the hospital. Why are you asking me? What are you talking about?
I was all about it. I was like, hell yeah, I want to find some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't know that we're into it. You know what I mean? Like if you're a person who is scared of the pack of copperheads that are bloodthirsty chasing the neighbor now, like it's kind of a backhanded thing to be like, oh, hey, other dude, will you dig in this super dangerous thing for us?
It's true. I don't really think of it like that, but that's very true. I'm always more concerned with like, hey, what is this? And it's a snake cut up in 3 pieces.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. What's this dog that I just chopped?
I got that picture today too, because they were like, oh, you want to see a picture of it? And I thought maybe they got a picture of it when it was alive. It was like, no, it was in like 3 pieces. And they were like, the head was still moving and biting and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's how a lot of people get bit.
So a lot of, if I chop your head off, your eyes are still going to look around. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
it's a bummer, but
on a lighter note, my wonderful, beautiful, amazing girlfriend Anna Maria texts me a picture of the biggest scarlet snake I've ever seen trying to make entry into her patio.
Cool.
And she FaceTimes me. She's like, what is this? This isn't a coral, is it? And I was like, no, that's a scarlet snake. She goes, that's a king snake, right? And I was like, well, no.
It's not confusing.
This is where, I was like, it's not the dangerous one. Good for you. Love you. But there's 2. I said, do the bands go all the way around or does it have a white or cream colored belly? She's like, its belly's cream color. I was like, pick that thing up, bring it inside, play with it for a little bit. And she didn't. It got away before, but she got some good pictures. And the thing was gigantic for a scarlet snake. It had to be at least 2 feet long.
Wow.
I've never seen a scarlet snake that big. And of course, it's always when you're not herping. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but I thought that was cool, man. I thought it was cool. It's her first snake in her yard.
Yeah. Well, all my neighbors, because a lot of them that live near the one who got bit, they're all like terrified now, and they're asking,
check my wood pile.
Of, like, what should I do? And
yeah,
it's like I'd tell them, I'm like, they're just as much of a part of our nature and neighborhood as the squirrels and bees and trees are. It's it's so easy to not get bit. If you leave them alone, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I did last year. They had me do like a little presentation for the neighborhood because I guess a lot of them had heard that I was like the snake guy, and So I brought one of my corns and I made a PowerPoint and stuff, and I talked to him, and a big part of it was like,
That's cool.
watch where your fingers and your hands and feet are going, and if you're gonna walk around at night, especially this time of year, now it's starting to warm up, like wear closed-toed shoes.
Yeah.
This stuff exists. Like this stuff is around. Just pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I love the orange on that head.
Yeah.
And I did like how it's got some like tipping back here.
That's a Florida Honduran boy.
Yes, sir, it is. And I was trying to get an idea. These pavers here are like right around 10 inches long. So you figure it's just about 2 foot.
Bet you that's an old one too.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, what should I move it to like? And I was like, no, leave him be. He's doing his job, So it's cool, man. Eating all her snails and stuff she's got in her yard.
Mm-hmm.
Very proud of her. Very proud of her.
I always find it odd that people sell those. Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
you ain't gonna be able to keep that thing alive. Those things are specialized feeders, man.
Yeah. I got one local herper kid he's 21, 22 now, but he kept like 2 or 3 of them because he would go digging through all the hedges and find anole eggs. And he would just leave anole eggs in there, and they would just eat the anole eggs. One time he even had an egg hatch and ate the lizard that hatched out.
Really?
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Alan Stevens said he saw blue and black basilisks at the Super Show. Put that in the big cage bill.
Yeah, Alan Stevens is spending a lot of my money in the chat, is what he's doing. Because I was roboting in and out of existence when he told me to throw Mertens in there. And I'm friends with Mike Stefani, and even at like the cool buddy price, Mertens is for real. Like, so probably not a Mertens enclosure. I could build a ridiculous Mertens. I'm that idiot. I have a spare 250 circular trough in my backyard that is probably going to go for a water monitor, a Asian water monitor. But yeah, I could make some silly Mertens stuff out of that if I had Mertens money.
Just get a Komodo.
Yeah, you do educational stuff.
Surely there's a permit for that.
So, not a Komodo. I do have a friend who runs a zoo up here who was able to get a Komodo. He's not an AZA facility; he's a ZAA facility. But in the SSP, they had a Komodo that she wasn't able to reproduce, and so she was allowed to go as a single animal to a ZAA facility, and so he was able to do that. It honestly, like, building the enclosure and setting up for that thing wasn't really any more difficult than it's bigger than my Argus monitor, but the setup is basically this. Like, he just had a longer version of my Argus monitor enclosure because it's just a longer lizard. Like, it wasn't, like crazy. He just had a whole bunch of heat lamps and a really long enclosure. It's not a super complicated thing. It's just space,
For whatever reason, I've seen some of those and some Niles on my local Craigslist within the last year. So I'm like, I guarantee you it's just they got to be too much. And people were like, yeah, I can't handle this damn thing. It's too much.
For sure.
Well, I saw baby Argus at the Tampa Repticon. They had baby Argus in like a 20 long. I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Several people have been really successful with them in the last couple of years, which is cool. The problem with that whole complex, like Flavies and different things, sand monitors and stuff, we lost a lot of those things to crosses earlier on, like when Frank Reitz was really killing it with stuff. I think, to be blunt, I don't think a lot of folks could afford them. And so they could afford one or the other. And then you kind of lost a lot to crosses in the Gouldy complex, probably because of the price point.
Like the sail fins.
But then like Argus themselves, and even for the Argus, man, like there's, I don't like to reference some folks, but if you hear somebody like Tom Crutchfield talk about back in the day, um, when different animals would come in, like he always talks about Dumoril's monitors, and he swears up and down that we're getting the wrong monitor now, because back in the day they were all like 5 feet long, and now they're little and they max out like 3.5 or 4. And he's like they're coming from a different port or a different place, like it's a different locality or whatever. I have a lot of people who talk that way about Argus, where my male Argus is a 50-inch monster. I mean, he's huge, and people always discount it when I tell them, but my male Argus was missexed for the longest time because the lady that I adopted him from, she's pretty hands off, very good keeper, but she never really had any intention of making use of the fact that it was a male or a female. And her
Mhm.
male, I mean, her male was a real 7-foot lizard. Like I saw it in person. I had my hands on it. It was bigger than me. And my male was the female of the pair because it was the small one. And it's an actual 50-inch lizard.
Dinosaur.
And so I get her, took her to a show. She averted a hemipene, and I was like, oh, that's why you never got eggs, because it's a boy. um, and now I have a female who a friend gave me. She was producing eggs. He never had a male. He was like, this is silly. You have a male. We should definitely hook up. I was like, yeah, that'd be great. She's maybe 30 inches total. Like I had a real concern about him eating her when I saw them together. And I was like, this isn't the same lizard. Like, these aren't the same lizards. But I know that they're the same lizards.
Well,
and
forgive
I know
me
she's
for being
mature.
that guy.
I've seen the eggs that she's put out. I know she's mature, and I've seen his equipment. I know he's mature, but they literally look like different lizards. Like, he's so much bigger.
Forgive me for what I'm about to say, but isn't there a different? There's like New Guinea locality, and then there's Aussie stuff.
Yes,
So
there
is yours Aussie, and what we're
Well,
only seeing now is New Guinea?
That's what we're thinking. So I have no way to confirm that, of course. But what I've read and what I hear from folks is that the thought process is a lot of folks that are having success now are like, oh yeah, what's the big deal? You keep it like a dry new Indo monitor. It's no big deal. It's not that much bigger than a mangrove or whatever. And I'm sitting here like, dude, what are you talking about, man? Mine are in an 8x4x4 gigantic enclosure. But then I find, this female comes to me, because when I went to pick her up, I took a tough box that fits in a pickup truck. And my friend was like, what the hell are you doing? And he brought out like a Rubbermaid from the hardware store. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think we can put these lizards together. He would just eat her. Like, I think he's probably eaten pieces of chicken that weigh more than her. And then my buddy was like, nah, man, they're Argus monitors. There's no way it's that big. I'm like, you need to come to my house, because it's definitely that big. Like,
wow.
I don't know. It is a stark contrast. But then you hear old timers, man, and they swear up and down, oh, we used to get black roughnecks and brown roughnecks. And dude, there was a 5-footer with a leash and all this crazy stuff. And everybody now thinks they're Indicus complex ditch lizards.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think we're getting the same place mailing us lizards, man.
Yeah, and I kept Dumerals back in the day. I had several of them, and mine were smaller, and they were maybe 4 foot with the tail, and they were never breeder size. I got rid of them before they were really breedable. But underground, man, we used to get in fresh out the swamp Dumerals monitors that the body was like 4 foot, plus the tail. So who knows? Maybe we fish that pond dry of that larger locality. Who knows? Now Scott's in the chat.
I mean, that's
saying,
definitely
no
a possibility.
Way. Yeah, Scott's in the chat. He's saying no way. I'm assuming on my whole New Guinea Argus thing. So Scott, feel free to type something out if you. We're always welcoming your 2
Well, I
cents, sir.
also did I disappear? Oh, there I am.
Oh, you lagged out. Sorry.
Nope. Let's see what Alan says. I think there's both types of Argus. Panoptis are just north of Cape York area and smaller dwarf species throughout Indo. Okay. So yeah, maybe. I've caught, and Scott says, I have caught 5.5 foot Panoptis. Yeah. I don't know, man. I do wonder sometimes, and I have no idea. We should, Dan Maliri or one of those guys, we should pick their brains, but I do wonder if that isn't also the case of Indo Argus. And there's like a dude farming them in Indo, you know, and maybe not so much type of thing.
I mean, I do remember people talking about an Indo locality of Argus where, and they almost had like a greenish tinge to them, like almost like an olive tinge to the face and neck. But this was 15, almost 20 years ago. So I don't really remember exactly what was what. And I was young and dumb back then. So what do I know? But I do vaguely remember that. So Justin, did you send Scott the link or no? You're muted, Smitty.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
See, and we also don't have as many folks like the old school guys. I mean, Dan, of course, is the exception, but that go over there and are like, no, I want to pick out from, you know, because we get in the Indicus complex and the blue tails and all the different islands and stuff that are from, and we just get this box, and it's like, okay, well, this one is definitely orange, and this one doesn't have any blue on its tail. Like, which one of you dudes mailed this to me? You know, and it's just a different game now as opposed to going over there like, yeah, I was hanging out on this island at the bar and the dude brought the orange ones. So they're from here for sure. You know?
Yeah. That's like Henry and I got really lucky with the Promaculatas and stuff because we were in direct communication with the guys that bred them and field collected them. So like we didn't get exact GPS coordinates, but we knew that they were from, you know, northeast shore of blah 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 beach in Sumatra, you know.
Oh wow.
Boy, look at that goatee.
Look at that handsome man's goatee.
What is that?
Is that the Undertaker?
That's called I've been locked up with COVID too long.
I've been working on a fucking book for too long. That's what it is. But anyway. Oh, Jesus. How are we, guys?
Good.
Good. Yeah. School us on tripoding lizards, Aussie man.
Oh, man. Panoptes. What a clusterfuck they are. So the reality of it is, right, is that New Guinea and Australia, basically, you need to look at as being the same entity, okay? They were separated. They've only been separated for about 8,000 years, which is not long enough for anything to speciate. Let's be realistic about it, right? So you got to basically look at them as being the same population that might have some geographical variance and some changes in their morphology, but genetically they're going to be the same animals for the most part. They are a big mobile animal, but you always see little females and big males in those large varannas, right? Parentis are the same. An adult male parenti is 2 to 3 times the mass and at least twice the length of a female. You see the same thing in sandies as well. 9 times out of 10, most populations of sandies, the females are small, the males are big. Rosenbergs is exactly the same. And so Rosenbergs, Panoptes, and Gouldii all form a species group within varannas. And so they all have the same sort of characteristics in a lot of that. Yes, they can, they can eat each other. But that's all about the way you pair your animals. If you pair them right, you're not going to tend to have too many issues. You need to watch them. You need to watch them really closely. I know the late Peter Krause had some issues at times when he was pairing certain lacies together and certain parenties together with others. And, you know, there's horror stories of, you know, walking up to an enclosure and there's a tail hanging out the mouth of one of the larger other goannas. So that's something that needs to be mindful of. But there's ways of introducing these things together so you're not eliciting a food response. And, you know, it might be that you got to set the two enclosures up sitting next to each other, and those two enclosures sitting next to each other allow the animals to interact, and then watch the behavior of the monitors. And the minute that it goes from being a food type response to, hey, I'm checking this girl out, you probably don't have too many issues then.
So you're saying, though, that's fantastic. But going back to the locality thing, you're saying that even if we have Argus that are of a New Guinea locality, the fact that they're smaller is just because smaller genetics have been put in there and it has nothing to do with locality?
Well, I can't be absolute about it.
Sure. No, of course. There's no definite.
But at the same time, you know, the population was abutting 8,000 years ago. There was no Australia and New Guinea. It was Saul 8,000 years ago. Right. So that's got to be taken into consideration. Where they're collecting these things may also have an influence as well, right? So the panoptes that you see in the top end prior to toads coming through and decimating them were big, large varanids. They were heavily bodied, and they occupied that big generalist niche, I suppose. What's going on in New Guinea, you might have things like crocodile monitors that are occupying the really large niche that varanids fit over there. And if that's the case, then there might be a selective pressure to reduce the size of panoptes in New Guinea, where they abut with things like Salvadori. But, you know, again, that's all speculation too. Without actually going over there and spending time in Guinea and looking at those things, you're going to be sort of grasping at straws. Certainly the ones on Cape York look pretty similar to me to the ones that I've seen on in the Northern Territory. When you go further south and you start to get where you get, you know, Panoptes rubitus, there's certainly a differentiation there. Versus Panoptes horny, which, whether it's something different or not, I don't know.
Okay, cool. Very cool. That's kind of what I was thinking too, is that it may not be a locality thing. It may just be the lizards that we have been breeding stateside are just smaller lizards. You know, there's nothing that really says that, you know, if Bill produced Argus, that half the clutch would grow to be 3 foot and the other half would grow to be 5. Who knows?
But it's like that arbitrary thing that you see in captivity where people breed from a certain line and then the line takes on a characteristic. And then people don't understand the difference between what's a line bred trait and what's going on in the wild, right? You know, you see that happen a lot with diamond pythons where people go, oh, that's not a diamond because it's got a squiggle on its back somewhere. And it's like, you guys don't look at diamonds in the wild. The diamonds in the wild have got squiggles on their back in some locations, in some individuals. So you get that variation, but you don't seem to see that variation, particularly with very small gene pools, like what you see in certain species in captivity over in Europe, Australia, and overseas. So you've got to be careful that you're not seeing a trait that you see in captivity and applying that to all of the species, because you're assuming that all of the species are like that based on the small representation you've seen out of captivity.
Yeah, well put.
So, yeah, fun and games. How's everyone else been?
Good.
Can you tell the good people why chondros are the best Morelia?
Because they don't do much. They're lazy.
There you go.
I think that would work.
How's my
They're
butler?
just lazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how are the Butler Eye doing?
They've had their first shed. One of them's eaten voluntarily. The other 5 on force feeding, but that's all right. I'm still happy. They've shed. Yeah, they've shed. They've had their first shed. So they went from, they come out grey, and then they sort of start getting colour and getting more colour, more and more and more colour. So yeah, so that's where they're at there. But you know, we've had some fun with floodwater of late over the last 48 hours. So I've had rain at our place like I've never seen before. It was absolutely insane. In 72 hours, we had 22 inches
Wow.
of rain.
Yeah, we saw on Facebook flooding.
Fuck, mate. It was pretty full on. 900 mil of depth.
Did you do anything for the outdoor enclosures?
Yeah, it pulled all the monitors in, pulled everything in. So, you know, and then I've cleaned them all off because there's, in that floodwater, there's diesel and all sorts of horrible shit. So,
yeah.
So I've cleaned them all up, and you know, at the moment I've just got enclosures and animals bagged and all the rest of it, and we've unbagged all the venomous now. We bagged up all of the venomous in the low lying parts, just in case that, you know, if the flood really came up really high and somehow got into the hurt building, we wanted to make sure that everything was prepped and ready to go, so we bagged everything up. Moved everything that we needed to move and put all the animals where they needed to go, and yeah, now we're cleaning and letting things dry out, and we'll put everything back in. So, you know, fun and games. This is what you do when you have animals, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, but it's good because I mean, it allows you. What's that?
Did you guys have any warning or no?
Nah, not really. It came up. It was sitting at about 450 mil over the road for a day and a half. And so that meant that we were minimising our interaction with venomous straight off the bat there, because if something goes fucking wrong, it's a bit harder to get help. So, you know, reduce the risk and minimise the interactions. And then it went from 450 over the road to 550, 600, 750 mil over the road within about an hour. So it went up 300 mil in an hour. And then it rose, and then over the next 3 hours, that's when my arsehole started puckering a bit, because it rose so quickly, so fast, and it was still absolutely raining cats and dogs. And I was sitting there looking at the radar reports and looking at the driveway, and I'm just looking at coming further and further up the driveway, thinking to myself, I really don't want to be cleaning this shit out of my house. And it thankfully it didn't quite get there. So
that's good.
Yeah, it was a restless night, but you know, playing with critters at 2 o'clock in the morning is not the best thing to be doing. So so we bagged them early, and happy days.
Nice. Do you guys have, like, by me and farther north of me, there's like these small, I mean, we call them irrigation ditches, but basically next to the shoulder of the road is a small dip in the dirt that's maybe only a foot or two deep. Do you guys have anything like that or no?
So we've got the normal gutters in the street, and then 200 metres, I'll say, from the house, there's a gutter like you're talking about that is 2.5 metres deep by 12 metres wide.
And that was just full.
And then it overflowed. That flows into a creek. That creek flows into a river. That river's tidal. So basically, once the tide hit on that tidal river, it just, basically got a suction effect, and it just drew the water out of the creek, which led to a drop in water levels between the drain and the creek, and sucked the water out of the drain. So it came down fairly quickly, but again, it rose up. I mean, this morning when I I toddled off to go make some money. It was a challenging exercise to get to work. So, but
I can imagine.
Look, these things are what they are, mate. There's a lot of people that are in a lot worse state than we are. So, just got to be thankful for what we've got. But it's good to see that, the emergency management plans that we have in place and stuff like that do work. And it's always good to have a test run of your procedures and show that they do actually work in an emergency when you need to. So.
Yeah, it's good to know that you still got it,
Yeah, I still know how to bag snakes, mate. So,
right?
Y'all have to worry about the crocs and stuff with the flooding like that?
Hey, I like crocs. Crocs are good. I don't worry about them. There's no crocs. There's no crocs officially where we are. Even though there's 2 museum specimens from the 1900s, and saltwater crocodiles move a long bloody way. But from where we are, it's about 350k northward where you start to sort of semi-reliably start seeing salties. So
I just assume that Australia is just one big lawless swamp like Florida is. So
yeah. No, we've got a shitload of laws, that's for sure. And yeah, we're about the driest swamp on earth, I think, mate.
Have you ever had a transplant wash onto your property? Like all of a sudden now you have turtles in your yard that are aquatic turtles that aren't supposed to be there.
The damn red-eared sliders.
Yeah.
Oh, there's red-eared sliders here in Queensland, but they were releases from pet shops and then turned into pet species and all the rest of it. And they're trying to eradicate them, but look, when I was catching snakes out of houses, we got the odd weird thing turn up. Turned up snakes out of Western Australia and the Northern Territory and things like that in southeast Queensland. I got a brown tree snake when I was in Melbourne, which was a long way away from home. I know another bloke who picked up a taipan in Melbourne at the Queen Victoria Market, so it's a fruit market down there, and he picked up a taipan in the fruit market that had come down in a box of fruit from Queensland. So
wow,
we get those sorts of things happen, and then obviously escape pets and things like that as well. You fairly routinely hear about people picking up things like water pythons and children's pythons and stimsons and that sort of stuff. So it happens. It does happen. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a bit different than the pygmy rattlesnake and the potted plant at Home Depot.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have been the one that got the call out to go get that taipan. Jeez, that would have been a bit of an interesting one to catch. But yeah, look, I mean, I know other people. I know one bloke who got called out to a Trimisurus that had turned up in a pot of plants in some pots.
Really?
I know another guy. Yeah, there was another guy who got called out to an Icus who thought it was a baby scrub python. That was an interesting one. I called bullshit on it. I said, no way. I said, you're full of shit. And they go, no, here you go. And then they sent me the photo.
No shit.
Shit, okay. And that was Icus carinatus. And it came over from Pakistan. The guy was the importer of pots. And it came over in an importation of pots from Pakistan. And yeah, it was an Icus carinatus.
Damn, that's awesome.
Well,
ring over there.
Oh man, that one was a scary one, right? Because if the snake catcher thought it was a scrub python, and he was careful so it didn't bite him, but that could have gone really badly. And there's no antivenom in Australia for Icus.
Yeah, but how do you mix that up? If you're a snake catcher, if you're a licensed snake catcher, you fancy yourself a snake enthusiast to the point where you're a guy that they call to catch snakes. How the hell do you confuse an Icus with a scrub?
Because some people do a snake catching course, and that makes them a snake catcher, according to them. Right? It's like it's like somebody saying that I do wildlife demonstrations because they take their milk snake, their corn snake, and their fucking blood python to a school and show little Timmy and little Jane. Right? That doesn't make them a wildlife educator because they've done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like saying somebody's a venomous enthusiast because they look at them in books or something like that. You know what I mean? It just doesn't fucking work that way.
Yeah, I get it.
And look, you know, at the same time too, what do we got? There's probably 3,000 species of snake and that are just currently described. And then there's probably another 400 to 500 that aren't described. There'd be whole families of stuff that I'm not aware of, that I have no hope in hell of working out what they were unless I sat down and actually figured it out. So, you know, the thing is this is an animal that was obviously different, but to this person, they weren't really too familiar with it. And, you know, that's what they assumed it was, you know. There's been a few horror stories like that over here. There was a case in the 50s where a guy was, he was on the docks down in Sydney, and he pulled out what he was telling everyone was a children's python that he bought from a bloke for $5. And he happened to show the photo of it to a very well-known snake handler over here. And the guy's face ran cold. And he goes, mate, where is this snake? And he goes, oh, it's at home. He goes, call home now and make sure that nobody goes near that snake. I will come and I'll go to that house that afternoon. So anyway, he went to that house that afternoon, and he very cautiously opened up the enclosure and picked up the snake and put it into a bag, and happened to show them the inch-long fangs that are sitting in the head of a Russell's viper that they were telling people was a children's python.
Wow.
So,
Jesus.
pretty well-known story over here from the 60s. So, and like the guy didn't believe it because these kids, the kids have been handling this snake. Everyone have been handling this snake. The snake was just really laid back and chilled out for whatever reason. But when John picked it up by the head, mouth.
Next thing you see these two big fangs, and I believe that snake ended up going to Taronga Zoo. So,
wow.
That was again, you know, so back in the 60s.
That's
Incredible.
wild, especially
pretty
knowing
crazy
how many
sort of
dudes in India get tagged
sort
by
of
those things trying to freaking put them in a bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, one of few snakes that can literally levitate.
What was that? Sorry.
It's talking about it's surprising that nobody got
100%.
dead, given how many guys in India have videos of them getting nailed because they were trying to put one in a bag or hook it, and it somehow airlifts itself 2 feet off the ground and nails them.
Yeah, absolutely insane. But then you see those other videos where somebody's like trying to do something, and you look at it, you know it's going to go pear-shaped, and next thing you just see the flash and just see the guy's holding his finger going, "Oh shit, I've just been nailed." So, anyway. All right, guys, I better keep moving, eh?
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, man. Love the
Stay
insight.
dry.
Yeah, stay dry.
Yeah, we'll give it a crack. All right, leave you with it, guys. Thanks, eh?
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for the info, man.
Old Scott.
Always a good time.
That's right up there with the pictures like in the ID groups of like someone holding a fucking cane brake and they're like, "What species is this?"
Yeah, but I mean,
I can
nowadays,
never wrap my head around that. Like, if you don't know what it is, why are you touching it?
yeah. I don't know, man. There's a lot of fakes out there too, like a lot of guys in Africa posting on an African snake ID group, and it's clearly like a cane brake, and they posted on purpose to be a dick. And everyone's like, "This is a group for serious African snakes. Please don't do that."
I don't know, man. I've seen some where there was people they were very clearly handling something, and were oblivious to what it was that they had in their hands. And it's like, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I have a brain, but
Yeah.
Hey man,
I can't.
we had that here. Sorry, we had that here. One of the local zoos, they work with law enforcement folks in Chicago, and the authorities were following a person at O'Hare, and the person ditched a package in a dumpster, and they assumed that they were smuggling something that they shouldn't have been, and they were, but it was not the drugs that they were looking for. So the customs person opened the dumpster. There's a big old snake in there. They called my friend, and he was like, "Well, that's pretty weird. Can you FaceTime me instead, or
These
send
are
me a
not the drugs
picture?"
you're looking for.
And the guy was like, "Yeah, man, no problem." So he FaceTimes him, and it was the biggest gaboon viper I've ever seen. And
Really?
it ended up going to their zoo, and it was a wonderful display. Just head like that, just this monster, and it was beautiful. But the guy was like, "Yo, is that bad?" And so my buddy's like, "Close the dumpster, set a little cordon around it, and I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't open the dumpster." And the guy
That's
was like,
great.
"Is it going to be okay? Like, should we get it out? It's kind of cold." And he's like, "Don't open the dumpster. Just
Yeah.
I'll be there." And yeah, that's 100%. Like that's their gaboon viper came to them that way. One of their cobras came to them that way. They had a gator come to them that way. Just silly stuff, man.
I'd
People
love to
don't
find
know.
the person that did that. I would love to find the person that did that.
Well, it's like the gator that came on the train. There's a CTA train that runs from the city direct line into the airport. There's CCTV footage of a person. They got like a little 3-footer kind of like in their coat. They just slide it on the floor and get off the train. That was how they got rid of their gator that was too big. And then the train came to O'Hare. They were like, "Dude, you weren't at work today." I was like, "Yeah, I know. I saw it on the news."
Wow. Oh, jeez.
Imagine being the hobo trying to jump in that dumpster. So why is it
For real, man.
It's loud in here. Oh well. See you later, Phil.
That was
Yeah,
abrupt.
it's wild, man. What people will do and not even think twice about it, especially if it puts someone in serious, harm's way.
Well, and it's literal ignorance. I mean, they
Yeah.
genuinely don't know. You know what I mean? That I guess that sort of makes it better. Like you didn't endanger people on purpose, but it's still not great.
You just think about how bad it would have been if someone had been hit by that gaboon, and how many
100%.
how many opportunities there were for that to actually happen. From start to
Oh
finish.
yeah.
It's
Well, even with that officer, like he just opened up the dumpster and leaned his head in there with his iPhone and was like, "Is this FaceTime good?" Like, I mean, he could have caught that right in the mouth and had no idea.
Yeah, that's like everything else currently. Just when you think things couldn't get any goofier, someone says, "Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I got something else for you."
We're still telling people to not feed stuff on the internet, man. Like it's
educational though, man. How are we supposed to
yeah.
teach people?
I did like that Scott brought that up. Like, "Oh yeah, I brought 3 snakes to an elementary school and you're an educator." Like, that's cool. Thank you for ruining my business. Because I do so many shows where they're like, "Oh yeah, the last guy, like it didn't look really good and it had this skin," and I just hear all these crazy things. I'm like, yeah. And
well, then you got to wonder like what information they're given. Like, is it just like, are they just there in like a self-serving sort of manner where they're just there to sort of reap the benefits of looking like the snake guy, or are they actually teaching people information that they should probably know?
No, dude, we had like I've had big public events where there be more than one of us or more than one company doing it, and like you'll have the people that like try to scare them and stuff, or like, oh, with a snake or a big monitor or something, and just like just ridiculous things. And then, like, you can see the adults who are at these events just looking around like, I don't think this is okay, but I don't know enough to
Right.
tell this person to
Right.
stop because I'm not totally educated myself. And then, Teresa or I'll start doing stuff and like we've had people come up to us and be like, okay, this makes more sense now. The other thing was wrong, right? And it's like, yeah, that was wrong. Don't do that.
Yes, we don't throw berms on people.
Yeah, I've straight up seen that at a world-renowned Chicago museum. 100%. That person was not invited back. But they got invited in the first place. I mean, it's a international institution. It's one of the museums, and that person got on the list, and that was their opener. Their opener was like, "Remember the big yellow snake? Ah,
catch!"
Like that. Yeah, died dead serious, like literally, like into the laps of a bunch of kids.
Hey,
they
kid!
just screamed and checked on the floor.
You want a 13-foot berm?
Yep.
Here.
Yeah, and they did exactly what you think. They were like 7. They screamed, went like this, and it just flopped on the floor. And he was like, it's cool. Don't worry. He's big, strong snake. They can take it or whatever. Like,
yeah. Something that's not meant to be in the air and dropped.
Right.
Or around children.
Yeah.
Freely.
And hey, man, I've done the kid birthday party thing hundreds and hundreds.
I wish I had video of that.
And it was always staged appropriately with the right kind of animal. And when we did the whole big giant albino Burmese python thing, you wouldn't necessarily have the kids stand there. And if they were standing there holding the snake, it would be like over grass. It wouldn't be like in the basketball court, or like on concrete. But if it wasn't grass or like a playground, we would just have them sit, crisscross on the floor and just drape it across their laps. You still get the same photo,
Yeah. Dude, we do it all the time. That's actually a thing that some people have. I was approached a while ago to talk about that. And it kind of faded because of all of the different lawsuit stuff that's going on and everything. But there was a thought process at one time to write some sort of, I don't know, it's not like enforceable or anything, but like basically a standard of
sure.
What
is cool and not cool to do at these events.
Yeah, but somehow have it come from a body like a US ARC to say, hey, these are the things that we are
recommend
supportive of or
sure,
stuff like that. And I originally was approached when that idea was brought up. It obviously got kind of kicked to the side a little bit because the lawsuit is a much more important thing at the moment. Or not lawsuit, but the fight over the law. Sorry. But yeah, and the crazy thing is when the folks were talking to me about it, I thought it was an awesome idea. I was like, yeah, because the people that Teresa and I would talk to about that subject do the same stuff that we do, right?
Yeah.
They might have a different like storytelling or whatever,
sure.
But like safety wise and cleanliness, like we all do the same stuff.
The fun facts may be different, but the way that you're going about it is very, very similar.
For sure. Yeah. And so that was a no-brainer. We were like, yeah, we'll help write a couple chapters of that or whatever. And dude, there were definitely people that, well, I'm not going to have some people tell me how to do mine.
What do you mean? I got to teach them actual educational content.
That, but I mean, look at the statistics for stuff like US ARC, and with, the ship your reptiles thing where people keep unclicking the box and stuff like that. Like, I mean, maybe people just aren't.
That extra 36 cents is just asking entirely too much.
Yeah.
I just imagine Phil with a giant albino berm walking around a party with kids with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Hell yeah.
Going, hey kid, you
Straight
like
Krusty the Clown.
The best. Did I ever tell you guys about one of my? I've done so many. All right. Through my previous employments at different reptile places, I've done birthday parties, I've done bar mitzvahs, I've done weddings,
Mhm.
but then I've also done like college lecture halls, where the
Yeah.
professor wants you to bring some stuff in because they're doing something, one thing or another. I've done high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, summer camps, summer youth league, that kind of stuff. But one of the best ones that I can remember was a very, very large party in Miami for this little kid. The kid couldn't have been more than 8 or 10 years old, right? And kid loved snakes, so brought a bunch of snakes. Black milk, Honduran milk, big cow king. Told everyone, hey, he bites, be careful. Of course, giant albino berm. Well, not giant, but at least 10 foot. And the kids eat it up, and it wasn't so much a presentation or education. It was just like, hey, kids want to touch snakes.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I rang the doorbell and a mom came out, and the mom's like, hey, you got to go around the side and bring the animals around the side. Okay, cool. And the outside was all the kids and all the moms, but there was no dads. There was no men. And I was like, all right, whatever, teach their own. So show the kids could care less. They want to do bounce house stuff. So a couple of kids play whatever. And then a guy comes out of the house and he's like, hey, but all the dads are on the other side of the house. Can you bring the snakes over there? Because the dads want to see the snakes. I said, of course, you're paying me. Why not? There must have been 15 or 20 guys. And I hope I didn't tell the story before because I feel stupid if I'm telling it differently in any way. But
I don't think you have.
Okay. So I go around the other side of the house, and there's sure as heck, there's 10 or 15 dads with a boombox playing music on the other side of the house, no kids. And one dad is like hanging out, leaning out of the window from the house. And they're like, oh man, bring the snakes over, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, hey, that's the birthday boy's dad. He's got to touch some stuff too. Bring it over to the window. Dad was on house arrest, and dad couldn't leave his bedroom.
Nice.
So he's leaning out the window with his front half of his body. He's
that
leaning out
kind
the
of
window.
neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Petting all the snakes, and like I let him hold some stuff, but he's like, yeah, man, I can't leave my bedroom, so come on by. But I'll never forget that birthday party.
Love it.
It was cool. It was good.
Was it almost like the bathroom scene in Training Day?
No, not at all. Why?
I don't know. It seems like
Why would you go there?
It could have gone that route. I don't know.
No, dude. First, I was outside the house. I didn't go in there. But oh man, no, there's no poker playing or anything. I was trying to think of a movie to compare it to, but you couldn't. There was just no way. I just thought it was hilarious how all the dads were just huddled around this window, and it didn't occur to me. But yeah, he had an ankle monitor and everything, so they had fun.
So my next pitch for a reptile event fundraiser thing. This is probably an appropriate show to make that pitch on that I've talked to people about. So Teresa and I were board members for a rescue for a very long time. And our part is that, we adopt the really big stuff or help things because we have a facility and, stuff that people get confiscated or whatever. And we would bring our collection to do the fundraisers. And so, we go to like a Comic-Con or something and you take a picture with a tarantula if you're dressed like Spider-Man. And, we would use our collection to help with that, help them raise money. It's awesome. Especially Comic-Cons. It's 1 million kids. They really cater to the special needs community. It's super cool and very wholesome, right?
Good.
My idea is not that.
Okay.
So the other convention that
Glad you liked it, Phil, because that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. The other convention that very frequently comes to Chicago is an adult convention.
Oh, even better.
And my thought was that particular crowd might also be into like take a selfie with a boa or do your Britney pose thing.
Yeah.
and you could raise money that way. And that
Sure.
was not very well received among the
Oh,
board
come
members of the
on.
charity. But I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think you would make a lot of money doing that. And you would have literally 4 hours to drape snakes on very wonderful looking people.
Yeah. Well, I have
They
to.
got really good pretzels at those events too. Soft pretzels.
All I can
They
say
do.
is I can't do it in Florida because all that shit's banned for me. But someone else wants to jump on that idea. Godspeed.
Yeah, it's and it's funny because a lot of that, like, reptiles are supposed to be the alternative culture thing,
Sure.
you know?
Sure.
And so you see tons of that stuff on Instagram, and it's a lot of West Coast stuff, and it's a big thing. And for a while, there were some folks that were very specifically just doing that with those type of entertainers.
Sure.
And I, like, actually, from a legitimate positive viewpoint, like, my worry was, because I never knew who the person was providing the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what if he's just some idiot? Like,
Yeah.
those people, especially now, like, their social media influence is gigantic. And if you're some goober and you're showing up because you happen to have cool retic morphs, like, you know, like, and you're the person that scarred up Jenna Jameson's face or something because you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know, like, what the professionalism level was on our end of it for that. Because it's the internet. I have no idea who that is. But quite a few of those people came to several of those conventions in the Chicago area, and I pitched that idea, but it was not received in the positive light I thought it would.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I tried.
Your heart was in the right spot, buddy.
Yeah.
What?
It was.
I'm a professional. It
You are.
wasn't, was that self-serving? It was a selfless thing.
He's just bummed that he didn't get to be the guy.
Yeah, 100%. That's, I mean, yes,
Yeah.
There's no denying that. What really upset me was I went to one of those as a patron, and just, like, walking around, I was like, hey, do you think this would be cool? And a bunch of those people were like, yes, you should totally do it. I was like, man, I knew it. I knew you guys would be into it.
Do it anyway. Look, the organization doesn't need to know where the donations came from or what caused the influx.
No, man, I'm gonna get my own
funds.
booth and just do it like a photo booth and make my own money.
There you go.
Like,
rock and roll.
If you're gonna turn your nose up at where the donation comes from, the Bill Fund could use a donation too, man.
100%.
Take a picture with a berm and buy a Bible.
That's right.
It's the Argus Relief Fund.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, gentlemen, we're at the 2-hour mark.
We are.
It was a terrible show ending. I
It
apologize.
was a good show ending. It was a good show ending.
This was episode 110 of Snakes and Stogies, which is brought to you by Puget Sound Pythons. Check them out, Facebook and Instagram, and blackboxcages.com. You need a rack, you need a cage. They're the people you need to be talking to. New episode of Reptile News Radio, I believe, should be dropping soon on the Puget Sound Pythons YouTube channel.
Yep.
Thank you, Jessica Ward. She said first time listening. This was great.
Oh, nice.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Wow, she's a lizard brain radio convert. I dragged her over.
Oh, nice.
The plan is working, guys.
Yes.
THP 153 is happening Thursday. I believe we have Kai Fan coming back on for some monitor stuff.
Sweet.
Oh, there we go. Jeff and Kendra said tomorrow was new Reptile News Radio. So
Nice.
Excellent.
we have a Patreon. If you feel like contributing, check it out. It's just the Herpetoculture Network. If not, no big deal. We're just happy you're here.
Yeah. The next episode of Fem Exchange Radio will be airing on Sunday. It was supposed to come out this past Sunday, so yesterday, but things got a little hectic, and this coming Sunday will be episode 3. So Venom Exchange Radio.
What's
check it out.
this one? Is there a hint as to what's being discussed?
You know what?
Specific?
I will say it flat out on this show, just as a teaser to not even a teaser, as a perk of the people who listen to this show. We are interviewing the one and only Mr. Johan Marer of the
nice.
African Snakebite Institute.
Oh wow, dude!
Guy's cheating. Alan, you can come on too, buddy, if you want, if you're free.
So yeah, that'll be Sunday, and hopefully everyone likes it.
Yo,
Yeah, I'm
hey,
looking forward to it.
if you guys are taking Kai, you can't also take Alan. There is a lizard part of this whole thing, man. Like
That is true. That is very true.
I've been talking about his enclosures forever and just actually never talked to him, which makes no sense at all. But
Oh man.
speaking of the lizard part of this whole contraption, my next episode will be the 6th, and that is going to be Jonathan from iPardalis. So if people that don't know much on the chameleon front, he is one of the people who is a big proponent of raising babies individually, which is showing to have a lot of major differences from how folks raise them in groups. And he is also one of the people who is working on the genetic study for the different localities of panther chameleon and how to differentiate those.
I remember reading about that.
Dude, he has bunches of stuff on his website about it. It's really cool. They're still trying to get some of the localities that have, it's kind of turning into tarantulas a little bit, where we get a lot of localities in the hobby, but we don't totally know enough yet.
Yeah.
And so he's really working into that. So that's gonna be really cool. And then the following episode, I am talking to Richie from the Gecko King. So he was supposed to be on earlier, had a COVID thing, had to, had a trip, all sorts of nonsense like everybody else in the world who's traveling, just like I was for a little bit there. And so we are going to try and reconnect with him at the end of the month.
Nice. Awesome.
I like it.
Good stuff, boys.
And I know at some point, so I think I said this last week, but I'm in the process of getting a Corn Stars and ConjureCast episode lined up. Discussions have been had about doing them. We just got to figure out a schedule to do them and make them happen. So it's going to happen.
Cool.
Just a win.
Excellent. Excellent.
Soonish.
Yes.
Everyone have a good evening.
Bye.
Later.